What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pinball in a Movie, where today we'll be talking about Apollo 13 from 1995. But before I can even talk about the movie, I want to give you some of the events that led up to Apollo 13 and some of the history behind it. So one of the most important things that you have to realize that is still kind of crazy to me today is that the space program and space exploration is still relatively new. It began in 1958 under President Eisenhower, and at that time we were still involved in the Cold War with the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union and the US were involved in a space race, and I think by 1957 the Soviet Union already had some satellites in space, the Sputnik. And so fast forward a couple of years, John F. Kennedy becomes president, and he really gets Americans bought in on the idea of traveling to outer space. And he has the goal of sending man on the moon, which he eventually does accomplish in 1969 when we land man on the moon from the Apollo 11 mission. And so during these years between 1961 and 1969, you have to realize Americans and pretty much the whole world was bought into space exploration. We Americans wanted not only to be, the most powerful country on Earth, but it wanted to extend its power and dominion to outer space, traveling to outer space. So that's where we have the space race taking place. And, a lot of Americans, millions of Americans were tuning into the television around this time to watch different space missions launch, even the broadcasting of the landing of the moon were all broadcast on TV. And a lot of Americans were tuned into it, were really bought into this idea, and it was something that really defined the decade, the 60s. But by the time Apollo 13 launched, Americans were already kind of feeling apathetic about going to outer space, because they already landed a man on the moon. And so they really thought that they had done it all. And so Americans were kind of feeling apathetic. Viewers, not as many people were watching on TV as before. And even some funding was stifled, I was reading. So the whole point of the Apollo 13 mission was not only to have another successful landing on the moon, but really to bring back a lot of rock samples from the moon to study, because you can use the samples from the moon when you collect the samples to kind of study the history of what's going on with the moon, to see whether meteorites have hit it, the activity of the moon itself. So that was kind of the main mission of Apollo 13. And that's where this movie takes place. It takes place leading up to the events of the launch, the failure that occurred during the flight, and then the successful landing and re-entry back to Earth. So the film was released in 1995, and the genre was a docudrama. Basically because it's a historical representation of something real, but it's adding a dramatic kind of take on it, where you have the Hollywood portion. The director was Ron Howard, and when I saw his name, I first thought of the sitcom, was it Happy Days? Happy Days. Ron Howard was a character, starred in Happy Days with the Fonz, and that's where I first was familiar with the name. So seeing him as the director of the film was pretty surprising to me. It's also considered to be one of his best films. And the film itself, as we already know, is based on the real events of Apollo 13, but it's also an adaptation of the 1994 memoir called Lost Moon, which was written by Jim Lovell, one of the astronauts aboard the Apollo 13 mission. There were 3 astronauts in total: Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Haise. And so really this movie is based on the historical facts and the first accounts from the astronauts themselves. And on that point, Ron Howard wanted to really make this film as accurate as possible, and so he even had cast members trained by NASA in flight controller training, and even some of the scenes were shot in reduced gravity aircraft to really get that feel, to get that realistic feel of the movie. And so in 2023, the film was preserved in the U.S. National Film Registry, and it is considered to be one of the greatest films of all time. I just thought it was a really solid movie. You can watch it today, and the film seems like it hasn't aged, and I think that's because it's based on something so, an event that's so important to us today. The way that Ron Howard really captured the importance of the Apollo 13 events in a movie medium really makes it worth watching, because as you watch and after you're finished watching, you just want to search more about it, about the mission itself, about where we are today in terms of space exploration, and it really kind of hypes you up about space in general. So I want to say too that it had a really good cast. I mean, Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, Gary Sinise, and we take things into context. Tom Hanks, this was a good decade for him. I mean, because the year before he was in Forrest Gump. Bill Paxton in '96, 1 year after this film, released Twister. Gary Sinise was also in Forrest Gump. So just really solid year for a great cast of actors. Really liked the cast as well. You also had Ed Harris as part of the flight control in the movie. And so one of the things that I just want to mention before I go on to the pinball portion is the reason why the mission had to be aborted. Why did this happen? And basically, without going too technical, an oxygen tank exploded during their flight, and so once that happened, they had to make a quick decision to reverse their pattern and go back to Earth, because without any oxygen, they can't fuel the cells, they can't, the electricity. So the oxygen was really crucial, and the fact that it leaked out into space really made landing on the moon just quite impossible. So that is something that I think you should know. It goes a lot deeper than that. I mean, apparently, from what I was reading, there were signs in pre-flight tests that something was wrong, but they still went with it. But the important thing, I think, to really take from this film is that even though this mission was quoted a successful failure, they were able to fix the problems that they saw on this mission. And so I think spacecraft now has things to address those issues, like extra oxygen tanks on separate batteries, stuff like that. But I don't want to get too technical. But Ron Howard did a good job, because he did really want to bring that technical aspect to the movie. But I think for the most part, and what I'm trying to do with this video is just give you the general facts about about this mission and the history behind it. I remember when this was when the VHS tape was being sold at my grocery store. I never had it on VHS, but I just remember how iconic the cover, the box, the movie art was, with Tom Hanks in the spacecraft there. Just an iconic film. Great score, and if you haven't seen it, I think you should definitely watch it. And it was just cool to see it again. But yeah, now let's go into the pinball portion. What's up, guys? Welcome to the pinball portion of this presentation. As you know, this table was released the same year the movie came out in 1995. It was done by Sega Pinball, and one of its most famous features and popular features is the 13-ball multi-ball, which you can activate in many ways. One of them being spelling blast off. Another thing to note about this table is that it has options for novice and regular mode. So the novice mode gives you guaranteed playtime, which I find really interesting because when you're considering your player base, some people may not be good at pinball and may get frustrated. So at least when you play novice mode, you're guaranteed minutes, and then you have your standard regular mode. This table also features voice and sound clips from the movie itself, which is really cool. And one thing I have to say, like I always say on all my pinball movie features, is that watching the movie really makes you appreciate the table even more. Because maybe you like the table without seeing the movie, but I'm telling you, if you see the movie, you might appreciate the table a little more. Also, you gotta like the cool toys. They got that spacecraft there, the moon, the Lunar Module toy, and really nice playfield art. So let's go here. Whoops.
Right down the middle.
There's the custom speech. Let's go with regular.
Welcome aboard, Apollo 13.
Okay, so we got 3 things to choose from. Let's do start mission. Whoops, we got mystery ups. Oh well. Also, I want to note that you have a stopper in the middle. It's there. It's up right now. You can't really see it, but you have a drain post, a stopper. Wow. Okay, let's try start mission then. Okay, shoot rocket. Okay, so we gotta shoot where the rocket toy is. The table almost looks a lot like the Lost in Space table. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Extra ball is lit. So the extra ball would be at the Lunar Module. The kick out hole there. And out the ball goes. Let's try 13 mil. Oh wait, that's just the third. That's just the score. I think I can still get the extra ball though. Houston, we have a problem. And that's the voice of Gary Sinise. And the spacecraft moves too. I think this is the... I don't know if this is the 13-ball multi-ball. So orange are the jackpots. I don't think this is the 13-ball multi-ball. But it's a multi-ball. I think for the 13 you have to spell blast off for the countdown.
Come on,
Oh, we got the extra ball, I think. No, video mode. Okay, left flipper. Okay. Oh man, so we have to operate this thing? Okay. This is interesting. Oh man. Oh jeez. Awkward.
We've lost radio contact.
You got a flight plan up there?
Hello, Odyssey. This is Ken Mattingly.
Like I think.
Your guidance systems are down.
Shoot flashing shots to fire thrusters. Okay, we have.
Odyssey.
So by making these shots, we are maneuvering the Odyssey. So this playing this table makes you feel like you're aboard, like you're a crew member, and the callouts are the ground control.
Come in, Odyssey.
I like that.
You're drifting left.
Oh, there's one. How much more?
D-cop.
You're drifting left.
Oh, I have four more to go.
Don't give up, Odyssey.
Oh no! It was getting too intense.
We're going to the moon.
Well guys, thank you for watching me play the pinball portion. I hope you enjoyed this feature. I hope you learned something about the events of Apollo 13 or the movie and a little bit about the table. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it.